Hi, everyone. Welcome. We're going to give everybody a few minutes to join before we get started. All right. We'll likely have people jumping in here. So I am going to get started with our webinar. We are recording today and you are muted. So if you have any questions at all, please send them to our chat. We're going to start today with an introduction to Omella. My name is Danielle, and it's my pleasure to lead our session today. We're going to talk a little bit about what Omella is and our event solutions for your schools. We have activity directors and teachers at Niles West High School, St. Charles North, and Lamont High School to discuss just the different ways that they run their school dances at Omella. And then we will have a live Q&A. So at any point, if you have a question for someone who is presenting today, feel free to put it in the chat. We'll try to get to it either during their presentation or at the end. Awesome. All right. So what is Omella? Omella is a platform that offers payments for K-12 schools, and we do it without the fees. And so we make it really easy for you to collect money and information online for things like a prom, a different dance, an event, fundraiser, field trips, concession stands, and merchandise sales. And we do it for schools at large for all different activities and athletic programs. Why Omella was started. So we actually have our founder here with us today. Brett and his brother David started Omella after creating the Remind app and hearing so much feedback that the number one thing schools really wanted to do was be able to collect payments online and make it easy for parents and others to be able to pay the school online. And since that wasn't an option there, they created Omella as a secondary solution for schools to be able to do this at ease and also remove the fees from the process. And so we know that school payments are messy. You know that school payments could be really messy. And our job is really to help you consolidate the channels that you're using today. Everything from your digital wallets through the platforms that you're using, collecting cash and check online can be super hard for schools to be able to manage what's coming into the school, who's paying for what, and all of the details that go around that. And so we hope that our solution is customizable for your school to be able to make it super easy for you to do this all year round. And I know I've mentioned this without the fees option, and that's because we run on generosity. And so Omella makes our money on optional tips. And we don't have any monthly fees. We don't have any contracts or any subscriptions that you opt into, which makes it easy for a school to use us once a year or as often as they need to for different clubs and teams. Parents always have a free way to pay, and your community always has a free way to donate by paying by their bank versus using a credit card, a debit card, or a digital wallet. And then we have it as a free option for schools. So you're taking home 100% of the proceeds, whether it's a dance that you're selling tickets for or it's a fundraiser that you're doing, you're able to take home everything that you worked really hard for. And today, we're going to talk about school-wide event solutions. So our focus is on homecomings and proms and school dances that you have, but it can also be something like a National Honor Society banquet or a theater event, or maybe it's a senior brunch and it's just a small intimate gathering. You can use Omella for those event solutions by selling your tickets without any fees. You can do student validation or some sort of guest validation to make sure that you are taking, tickets from the people that you want at your event or that are approved to come to your event. We do guest approvals and we offer options for you to collect signatures online and ways that you can make sure that if someone's attending a dance and they're bringing a guest, that they have an option to bring that guest, submit a guest code, and make sure that it's safe and secure. And then we have three check-in options that I'm going to get to in a minute that allows you to actually use Omella with a device on your side to scan tickets and check in the people that purchase those. We offer customizations that allow you to, take a dinner order for prom or make sure that someone's sitting at the right table, or maybe you need to make sure that you have an emergency contact for these students. All of these things all together make it really easy for you to make sure you have control over your event and that it's safe and secure for the people that are attending it. It also cuts down on the time and the money that goes into actually managing an event like this, where your teachers, your staff, your parent volunteers are helping you coordinate. They're all using one system that's giving them the same accurate data that's been approved and validated before the guests actually attend the event. So we just want to make sure we cover this with you today in greater detail with our guests. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the check-ins before we dive in there, because that was probably the biggest question we had going into today. So Omella offers three types of check-ins. A standard check-in, which allows you to set up a check-in button on the administrator side. So you scan a student's ticket or a guest ticket to an event, and then you're able to have control over actually checking them in and selecting that button. And that will then, show up in your reporting so you have a valid list of who's been checked in at what time. We have auto check-in, which is really slick, really quick and easy to use. It allows you to scan a ticket and it automatically checks that person in just by scanning. If you have a large scale event, you're trying to streamline the check-ins and make sure that you cut down on the time of that, auto check-in is definitely an option for you. And then we also have self check-in, which allows the guests to be in control of that check-in button, which I know could be a little scary for some of those that are managing events like this with students. But what happens with the self check-in is the button will show up, an hour or a few minutes prior to actually when the check-ins begin. And so if a student shows you their ticket or a guest, shows up at your event and they show you their ticket, you can tap the check-in button on their phone or they can tap the check-in button on their phone. So it makes it really easy for you to also streamline that process and make sure that you're in control of over who's coming in the door and how quickly that's happening. All three of these options still give you accurate reporting on the back end to validate this information ahead of the dance. You can pause with these options and check student IDs and make sure that you are feeling good about letting these people in the door. So with that being said, I'm going to introduce our first guest, Caitlin Lucci from Niles West High School. And Caitlin, thank you so much for attending today.
My
Just
pleasure.
Yeah, and we were so excited to be able to host you because I know this is not the first time that you used Omella for a dance. And so we're excited to be able to just showcase your results and share some of your experience with our community. Caitlin's homecoming highlights from this past fall, she sold over 600 tickets, whether that be student tickets, complimentary tickets, or guest tickets that came through the platform for this dance. She had those options. A lot of schools do complimentary tickets for different reasons, whether it's for students working the event or for different types of guests that are attending. And then the nice thing about this that makes it really flexible for Caitlin is that she uses Omella in conjunction with other software that's required from her district, which is one of the biggest pros that we have. It's really flexible and easy to use Omella with other systems that you have. So, Caitlin, welcome. My first question for you is, I know that you've been using us for dances for a while, and I wanted you to tell us a little bit about the ticket sale process on your end and how that works on Omella.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just in full disclosure. I'm in the year 2 of my role, and I am a new activities director. And fortunately, I don't know what it's like to sell tickets to a dance without using Omella. And frankly, I can't imagine not having access to it. So I've had 2 successful homecomings and 1 prom. We're gearing up for our spring prom later this year. And I think it's so simple to set up. I always tell my sponsors, if you can create a Google form, then you can create the page that you need in order to collect the information from your students that you require. And then that compatibility or the customization is so key. So we actually collect information for our our Niles West students and their outside guests all in the same page. And we do have a hard copy form. We're working on digitizing that, but change is slow in schools, as I'm sure many of you can relate to. And so our guest approval process first goes through a hard copy piece of paper in our dean's office, and then they let us know once a student has been cleared. And that allows me to send a specific link to our Niles West student so that they can purchase the ticket for their guest. We've actually tried this a couple different ways, and we may even try something new. I'm excited that you guys have the pay in cash button, so that we still do collect cash, although our business office is really reminding us that anytime you collect cash, 2 people should count it. You should issue a paper receipt. And people are like, are you serious? We don't do that. And so Omella allows us to kind of have an added security measure and an extra check and balance in place. Our deans actually use the Omella reporting tool when we're selling tickets to make sure that any students who have purchased a ticket aren't on social probation and they are cleared. And so Omella's team has created a customizable report for us that they are able to pull up and access so that they don't have to be bothered or weighed down by what the meal option is or whether the student is riding the bus or not. They can just get right to the name and whether the student has purchased a ticket or not. And so that it really allows for collaboration in a very convenient and time-effective way.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, you totally nailed the first two questions actually, because my second one was going to be about student validation and making sure you feel secure. And that's one of the biggest reasons people use a digital platform to sell tickets now is making sure the event's secure, making sure the attendees are who they say they are and that they're students in good standing and guests in good standing. And so really helpful to know. And with that cash button, you're right. Omella will track that guest and also issue a receipt. So you'll be able to keep track of all of that. And my last question is just how does Omella support your school at large? I know you mentioned that the deans and others use the platform to track revenue that are coming through. Can you speak to that a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. We actually use it, and in full disclosure, Brett is a Niles West alum, but I'll be honest, it was not easy to get, we wanted to support him, but there were a lot of hoops that we had to jump through to make sure that our business office felt confident with us using it. And I will say at this point, we've had 0 complaints, 0 questions about how to access Omella. Once we direct a parent once we get them to be able to be on the right page, then I've had 0 questions of how to use it or why, or it's really simple and really streamlined. Our club sponsors also use it for concessions, for team fundraisers, for merch sales as well. And our district office just is fully behind this. Again, it was a slow process. It was an ugly process at times. It just took a long time. But now that we're there, it's only been, I'm not trying to make this a commercial either. It's just the truth that it really does make my life so much easier because I feel confident that we can collect money in a safe way without wondering if the sponsors actually went through their cash or if it's still sitting in their desk drawer from 2 weeks ago when they had the hot chocolate sale.
Yep. Yeah, I hear you. And that's something we hear at large from a lot of our high school partners. So thank you, Caitlin, for some clear feedback here. And we may be picking on you in the Q&A if there's questions that come up. Okay, so next we have St. Charles North High School. We have Megan Liverton, who is both a teacher and a dance coordinator for their events. So Megan, welcome. A few highlights from the homecoming dance was the first dance that they used Omella for. Over 1,200 tickets sold, over $38,000 in 8 days, which is just incredible and really awesome to see it all coming through one channel that really supported, the St. Charles event here. And then one thing that I don't think we'll get into on Megan's just yet, but the St. Charles North team used our auto check-in, which made it really quick to scan that many students in on the night of the dance. So Megan, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you for joining us. Your insights are super valuable. And the first question I have for you is actually about the setup process for your event. And so can you speak to this process? How did it support you with the goals that you had? And then, how did it help you, I think, when you had to roll this out to parents and students who were using it for the first time?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have been in charge of our homecoming dance for the last 11 years. I'm one of the student council advisors, and that's just something that I've taken on. And we've gone through a couple different ticketing options that haven't been easy to use from my end, excuse me, as the person in charge or from the parents' end. And I think switching this year was really terrifying, actually. But it's been a really great process. I mean, in all fairness, like Danielle and I have met multiple times over the year. The team was really supportive with helping us set up. So any questions that I had, telling them specifically what I needed for what we wanted on a ticket information site, was all really easy for us to use. And it was really easy to roll out. The school was really behind us on it. We've been looking for something that was a little bit easier for the parents. I don't know if anyone else can relate, but on the day of our like homecoming parade, which is the day before the dance, I'm out of the building all day at the parade site. And the number of phone calls that I was getting from parents who were angry, deans calling me, teachers calling me, because the number of people that are, we can't figure out how to use the ticket site. We can't figure out how to get this payment. I don't have the right code, was a nightmare, like my least two favorite days. I also would have people calling me on those, like that Saturday before the dance when I'm at home, like with my kids. So it was a nightmare. None of that happened this year, which is huge. Like, I can't even believe I'm saying that, but being able to roll out the ticketing site this way, it linked right to our school website. I was able to make a like video where I was able to preview it as a student or a parent, and I went through step by step what parents or students would need to do. So there were not a lot of questions that were directed to me or our administration or secretaries, because it was easy enough to streamline and roll out to the community.
Yeah, that's amazing. And we're so glad to hear that, because I think anytime you roll out a new system, there's so many questions. And I think that's why we also take a step back during creating that ticket page to make sure we're trying to incorporate anything that could come up that, you can get in front of it by putting instructions, details, codes of conduct to make sure that people understand what they're purchasing and what they're attending and all of that. So kudos to you as well, because you were really thorough with the setup. The next part about this I wanted to talk about was just the ticket sale process on your side, and like, how was Omella able to support you with some customizations to make sure that the event was up to your standards and that we were collecting the right information for you?
Yeah, I think some of the big things for us is like we're very specific with, we want first and last name, we want the dean. With the guest ticketing, we've tried a lot of things in the past with codes where I've had to send individual codes to everyone once I've heard that the guest has been approved, which also is a nightmare. And with this process, we decided we were going to try it without the codes. We were going to put kind of the ownership on the student, that you're going to fill out that paper form that Caitlin mentioned. We still do the same thing. The deans from the other school have to sign it. They turn it into our dean's office. We had on there the ability for a student to buy a single ticket or a guest ticket, and they knew that like if you purchase a guest ticket but your guest ticket's not approved, we kind of put it back on the students. So we do put the guest passes out a little bit earlier than ticket sales, just to kind of speed up that process. But we were able to all in one, I'm purchasing a ticket for me, or I'm purchasing a ticket for me and a guest. And then the next step, if it was just you, it went through your first name, last name, your ID number, your dean. If it was me and a guest, it was the same information, but also including the guest on there. And then important for our kids is like they can't get emails from outside of the school district. So we make sure that they put their personal emails, and it was highlighted, and Omella helped us like bold it and make sure that that was visual. And so just everything with creating the site, like every specific thing that we needed or wanted to collect on there, we collected. And then again, like Caitlin said, all the reports were easy enough to pull up. It was like an Excel spreadsheet. We could see everything on there. And then just to, I think, I don't know if we mentioned this yet, but I sent to the team at Omella all of the ID numbers of the students in the school, and they input that into their system for us, because we want to make sure that kids can only buy the 1 or 2 tickets if they're bringing a guest, and then no tickets beyond that. So that was not an issue at all this year.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, and to be clear, for those attending that have questions, one of the other top questions we got was, how do you do guest approvals? And how do you make sure that guests are validated when they're buying tickets or the students purchasing for them? We do have options for guest codes, and it works for some schools. Other schools, like Megan was just talking more about have made it work without the guest codes, and it's made their process more streamlined. So we offer both just because we serve schools of all sizes with all types of resources and all different types of numbers when checking into dances. And so we want to make sure it works for you. And I think that's also the beauty of working one-on-one with us to get your page set up. So thanks for elaborating on that. One more thing with customization for your dance. I thought this was really incredible and I wanted to shout it out. So St. Charles North actually, all of our pages have the ability for you to add other options to engage. And one of those is donating. And so Megan thought it would be really cool to add a different campaign to the ticket sale process where students and parents have the option to donate to a cause that matters a lot to the St. Charles community. And so I just thought it was really cool to highlight this. Megan, maybe you can share. You
Yeah.
had a competition in giving, and then you raise significantly more putting it out there like this. And I thought that was really incredible.
Yeah, so one of our homecoming week events has always been like a donation wars or a penny wars class competition. And just over the last couple of years, with people not carrying spare change or cash on them, we really weren't raising a lot of money, and we were carrying kind of like those big jugs or big buckets around to the events to get people to donate. Last year, we raised money for a separate charity in the community, and we probably raised about $200, which was a really low year for us. We used to probably, when I started about 8, 9 years ago, we would get significantly more because kids carried cash on them. And so we decided this year to try it onto here so that it was in one place where when people were purchasing tickets, they could. I think you can see at the bottom, there's like the colorful heart. So that like designated which class the kids were part of. So we still counted that as our homecoming points week. But we are pleased to say that this year we raised over $1,200 for this charity just by having this on our ticketing page. So the video we shared is the same video that students watched during school when we were highlighting homecoming week. And then you can see they had the option to donate those given amounts. They could donate nothing. It wasn't an obligation, but people chose to, which was really amazing for our community. And we were really happy with the outcome of that.
Awesome. Well, congratulations, Megan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you wear many hats, and one of them is coordinating events like this, and you did such an incredible job. So thanks for sharing your
Thank you.
experience. And then Matt, last but certainly not least, I wanted to talk a little bit more about Lamont High School and specifically the other side of the dance experience, which is beyond ticketing, and partially a little bit about ticketing here, but really like how did we manage check-ins and all of that. So Matt, thank you so much for joining us. Another huge event. It was the first time that Lamont High School used Omella for a dance this past fall. And in less than 2 weeks, they had over $20,000 in ticket sales and nearly 600 students that were scanned in and checked in on the Omella platform that evening ahead of the dance. And so welcome, Matt. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks. It's interesting. I feel like a lot of why we moved to Omella was covered in the other things, but this was actually like for our dance purposes is maybe the most important part for us because and dare I say the first question was how it's managed, but as we have students come to dances, we want to make sure that they're actually coming to the dance. And so for years we had like the pen and paper and a list, and they would meet at a table with a chaperone. Kid would show their ID, and then they'd cross them off the list. And when there's some years we have 600 kids, some years we have 1,200 kids, and so we wanted to get away from that. So we need to ensure attendance. So that's how we do it. And the chaperones that are assigned to the event are at the door before they get in through the gates, as it were, to be involved in the dance. So Omella, I guess, compared to the past, we did in fact use that second check-in process where the sponsor had all of our chaperones had their phone or an iPad or a school device that they were able to scan the students' QR code that they were given or their email, and then they came through, and it went really quickly. But it's all, I guess, by comparison to what we've done before. So anything's faster than the old have a list, have an ID, that kind of thing. the old fashioned way was like buy a ticket at lunch on a laptop in a Google form, or even before that, like literally writing it down and getting a ticket. I lost my ticket. Well, we got nothing for you. It was not the greatest. The last couple years, we used RevTrack because Skyward is our student database and information system, and RevTrack partners with that. So there's a nice little migration there. So students bought tickets on that platform 1 year, and then we took all, like, at 3 hours before the dance, we took all of the names and student ID numbers, and then we put them in a database, and we had like barcode readers, and they'd read the student's ID, and then it would like confirm if they were there. But every chaperone had both a barcode reader and a laptop, and then if they pushed the thing in the wrong spot, it was a lot of programming, and it was a pain in the tail, and it was not fun. Then we moved to GoFan last year, and I think a lot of schools use GoFan because the IHSA requires it. And as a product of using GoFan, while it's familiar to people that go to sporting events, it's really it didn't do the security piece that we wanted. We wanted to make sure that our students didn't see 7 o'clock, open up their phone, check in while they're at their lake house in Wisconsin. There's a lot of kids that, especially prom, right? Like, oh, I'm going to prom, mom and dad. Like, you're not going to prom, you're going to some other place. So we wanted that extra layer that that GoFan didn't support, particularly when we were using it before. They may now, but the reality was this was so fast. We were able to have the teacher scan it. We had one issue with a sponsor who had made an account incorrectly. They just didn't follow the really clear directions. But a shout out to the Omella support staff who, like, number one, reached out to me ahead of time that day at like 4 p.m. saying, hey, we're ready for you when you have your first big dance tonight. Reach out to this email address if you run into any problems, or hop on the help chat, and we're here for you. Sure enough, like, as we have these kids coming in, and I got two sponsors that, made the mistake, they were immediately resolved, and we were able to get those kids in record time, and we knew who was there and who wasn't there. There were no accidents. We still did set up like a table for our guests, and we did do the guest thing the old-fashioned way with the piece of paper, mostly because we kind of built the Omella plane in the air this fall. Like, our homecoming is really close to the front of the school year, and it's my first time in this formal position, and so it was like a little bit of a quick curve, but everybody climbed on, and it was like, even the sponsors were like, this is way too easy. We're using it right now for other significant things. We're getting ready for prom, and we're going to use Omella for that. We're going to tweak some of the data that we collect for different purposes for prom, but yeah, it was a very clean, quick process. And I think the staffing in particular was really helpful, both the night of and in setup and configuration. And we have a couple non-tech natives on our dance staff that were pleasantly surprised by the ease of use.
Incredible. That was such a great summary, Matt, and really touching on the points that matter most to us. You have a seamless experience. You're able to feel secure about who's attending the dance and how it's managed with check-ins, and that you're getting the help that you need. And we're always there. We have on call for events like this, and we want to make sure that if there is an issue or a user experience or something like that, that we can resolve, that we do it quickly, because we know how important it is that you're timely in getting everyone in the door. So that was a great summary there. Thank you.
Yeah, no sweat. I mean,
I,
yeah, that for sure. I think I covered everything you wanted me to, right,
you
Daniel?
did. You covered everything and
And I have
more.
to be careful because I can like sing some serious praises about some of the other stuff, but I'll let you after it.
Well, only because we're on a timeline here. I want to make sure that schools also understand how we help. And actually, Matt did that job for me by jumping in and talking more about his experience. But there's 3 ways that we get you set up for dances. One is we create your ticketing pages for you, and we make sure that the validation is set up and the things that matter most that you're collecting are here, and that they're locked in and that you're getting the reports that you need. Event management, we're here to advise, make changes, and monitor your results as things come in the door. So if you need help, we can jump in, make changes to the page, add users to make sure people can do check-ins and all of that. And then on-call support is just even a further extension from this. Before the event is usually when things get crazy. You're closing ticket sales, you're reopening, you're adding people in, you're making sure you have people in the system to manage the dance. We're there to support you every step of the way. We do test your pages. We do make sure you have what you need ahead of time. And then we'll also be available during your dance. If something comes up, we always have a channel for you to contact us. Safety and privacy, one of the other biggest questions we get. The data security is really just a huge priority of ours. We want to make sure that you, your staff, and your students are safe. And we have more to share about that if you're interested. We itemize your payouts. And so when you're collecting money for prom, we want to make sure that you collect that money, you're able to pay your venue quickly. You're able to make sure that you're getting the money to where it needs to go. Those events are not cheap. And we also recognize that it needs to get into your hands quickly. So whether you're on check payouts or you're receiving, a direct deposit to your bank account, we make it really easy to make sure you're getting your funds on time. And then powerful reporting. We have customized reporting that you can edit and make sure that it's tailored to your event. You're collecting the right information. You want to know who the attendee is, who their guest is, what they're eating for dinner, what bus they're on. All of that's in one place, and you can tailor it to be even more specific, based on what you're collecting and what you need access to that night. And so with that being said, I know we're at time here, but I'm happy to stay on. If there are questions that haven't been answered, I think the chat's been going a little bit here. But if there's anything that you need or any questions that you have, you can put them in the chat in the next minute here. Happy to stay on with you. Otherwise, I will be sending a clear follow-up from today's event. That is, just a follow-up and a recording of our session. You'll receive a little bit more information about Omella so that you can learn more about our platform, what we offer, and our policies. And then we have another school-wide event form that goes out to all of our users if you're setting up a new dance. The people that are here today have used it before. You put in all of your preferences and we build your page for you. If you're interested and you wanted to get started and see how the process would work, we'll be sending that along too, and you can always submit that and we can mock up a page for you. So thank you so much for your time. It's always our pleasure to be able to speak about what matters most to us, and seeing, our different partners up here today talking about their experience is really wonderful. So feel free to follow up with me at Danielle@omella.com. Otherwise, I will be in touch. Thank you all.